What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Ilya from the Hirsch Effekt. Thank you for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man. Me too.
It's so awesome to have you here. The newest album is Kollaps, which is scheduled to come out May 8th of this year. Do you just want to talk about how the making of this record was and the recording and all that fun stuff?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I can just start off by telling you that this time we actually try to focus more on shorter songs. So basically, if you checked out our last album, Escapist, which went over an hour, you could find pretty long songs, you know, going 6.5 minutes, reaching the 14-minute mark. So this time we said, you know what, instead of just, you know, drifting away again, let's try to focus on the shorter songs, but like trying to squeeze everything that we love, you know, trademarks of genre hopping and crazy math breaks and, you know, sliding up and down our fretboards into a more focused form. And that's how the idea of Kollaps, you know, came about. Because the album is a lot shorter, but it was for us important to do something different than what we did on Escapist. Escapist is more melancholic and, you know, dreamy like and sort of drifts from one piece into another. This time there's a different, aggressive, alarming vibe going on the record, and it was important for us to do something different this time than on the last record. So that's why the record turned out the way turned out.
Yeah, so this was a preconceived idea, right? It wasn't just like it happened this way and you guys were satisfied much quicker, right? It just, you went in knowing you wanted to like experiment with a bit of a shorter time span on the songs.
Exactly, because we had never done that. We had always seen this band, you know, who used to write these 10-minute long pieces, and then after a 10-minute long piece, you have the next 14-minute long piece, and it was really like, okay, let's just write songs. You know, see if we can even do that. Yeah.
Well, and I've noticed that, like, actually for this particular record, that I not only are they shorter than what we got on Escapist, but like it's like they vary more too. Like Moment is a song like 1.5 minutes long, but then you have a song like the title track that's like 7.5 minutes long. So at like what point are you like saying, okay, it's done, we don't need to add or take away anything more?
Oh, that's very intuitive. It's that's usually when we get a record done and we're sort of halfway through, we start thinking of what do we still really need, you know, to end the story, and what are we missing? Because this time we also had like written, we had a few more songs written for the album which never made it because we had to sort it out, because we had a few more heavy tracks, but then again we had already written sort of like 5 or 6 pretty heavy tracks, and then it was like, okay, you know, the thing that this album needs to be complete is not another 2 crazy heavy mathcore tracks, but it's more like we need something different, you know. Maybe we need the track called Moment, you know, which is just 1.5 minutes of string soundscapes, or Kollaps, which would then turn out to be the 7.5 minute long, you know, kind of like dreamy prog rock piece. So I guess like finding out what we still need kind of evolves always from what's already there.
Mm-hmm. Being that I've always said that the Hirsch Effekt's music is very, very experimental. Like, you know, there's elements of like mathcore, there's elements of prog, there's elements of post this that. Like basically, like it's always fair to say that the Hirsch Effekt, like trying new things, is almost kind of like essential to the band, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there ever a preconceived idea of what elements you want to bring in, or is there like also maybe like a lot of improvising involved with your sound?
That's a tough question. I would say even that sort of evolves throughout when we were in a songwriting process. It was like this time we had a track called Torka where it really was me like getting into more electronic music, you know, because I was listening to certain stuff at that time, and then I just, you know, came up with this influence and sort of focused more in it, you know. That's what happened. Then again, we have this track called Almenda, which was almost written completely by our guitarist Niels, which was really much inspired by him actually, you know, discovering the Architects tuning, or that the tuning that the band Architects use, and playing around with that. So yeah, it's basically us, you know, just letting, you know, just being influenced by what's going on around in other music and other bands, and then I guess trying to make something for ourselves out of it, you know, something which is your own, you know.
Definitely. Is there ever a time, because you mentioned your vocalists, and I know that both of you actually incorporate vocal talents into this project. Is there ever a time where maybe lyrics or a concept could determine the music, or are lyrics kind of like secondary in the songwriting process?
I wouldn't say they're less important, but I must say that they come in at a lot later stage in time. You know, it's we always have the music basically finished, and usually when we're halfway through, you know, through the album, like completed instrumentally, then we start writing lyrics, or then the first lyrics develop. But actually, we always have a ready written musical demo, which is sort of already been produced and recorded, and then the lyrics come, and then the vocals come into play. It's pretty much that way. Like I think we've never written a song that has sort of, you know, been based on the or sort of come out from the lyrics, or from the lyric side. Yeah.
You ever thought about maybe trying that in the future? Again, I've always said that your music is like a mad scientist project in a way, so you know, never say never in trying that out, right?
I mean, never say never, but then, I don't know why we've never sort of gone that way. We could, but then again, at the end of the day, it's a little bit, you know, if you're writing normal, how should I put this? Like, if you're writing more like pop songs, then you would have a melody connected to the vocals, you know, and then you could start building chords around that melody and that kind of stuff. I mean, you can absolutely go that way, but usually our music does not develop that way, that we're, you know, thinking verse, hook, and then, you know, bridge, hook. But it's more like, I don't know, we have a huge intro, which then is followed by part A, and then there's part B, and then part B2, and, you know, it drifts back and forth. So yeah, that's maybe why that hasn't happened until now, because we chose to write music which is somehow, with form is just, not really like that of a normal song. So, but never say never.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know that for this particular album, you actually worked with Tim Torat, who worked with In Flames and the Kooks and so many other great artists, and it was mastered by Jens, who's worked with Opeth and Devin Townsend and Catatonia. Did working with them allow you to bring in some newer elements as well into the Hirsch Effekt as well?
I would put it that way. I mean, we've done now quite a few records with Tim in the past, and I would say he sort of influenced our sound during the second record and maybe the third, but since Escapist and even before that, we've kind of like been producing a lot ourselves. Mm-hmm. It means if you listen to the demos compared to the album, of course the album sounds like a lot better because it's been mixed and, you know, recorded properly, and he's laid his fingers, you know, over the songs and done his plugins and everything, and his mixing skills, but still they sound, you know, quite similar in that way that you realize, okay, it's the same production elements, and it's the same song basically. So I would say we've produced a lot ourselves nowadays. We sort of know how Tim will make a sound, and we know the recording process with him, and he knows the way we work. That's why we've until now, you know, gone down this path with him, because it's always valuable if you're working with people who actually know also a lot about your musical taste as an artist, you know, and how the artist artist wants it to sound like, and with Volkeren he mastered the Escapist last time, and we sort of just tried it out of the blue because we had heard a lot of good, stuff about Volkeren, and once we found out that he's actually doing mastering as well, it was then, whoa, fuck it, why not? Let's write Jensen. I mean, he's like a pioneer in the metal scene in mixing and mastering, and has done all these great bands that I love as well, and done an incredible job, so why not just try? And then we found out that Jens found a really great like a sound for us for the master, and the way the music then just comes out. So this time we just said immediately, let's do it again with Jens, because we have nothing to lose, man. He's the perfect guy for the mastering
Definitely.
job.
Now, when you look at the entire catalog of the Hirsch Effekt, when you look at Fix 'Em, when you look at Escapist, when you look at Kollaps, is it almost kind of like a self-portrait in a way of who you and the rest of the band are at that particular time?
Yeah, well, I would say it. Of course, not like lyrically, quite not. Maybe, but musically, yeah, I would say we have evolved, and if you compare it to the Anamnesis album from 2012, we are not able to produce that kind of music nowadays anymore. At least, not exactly in that style, because we have evolved as humans throughout the last 10 years, and we're different people than what we were back then. So, and that's what I actually like about music also in general, that much, that it sort of always portrays a part of you that you were, at that time.
Mm-hmm. And being that, again, kind of going back to how, experimental your music is, it almost seems like, one element we could hear on one album we may never hear again in a future one or something like that.
Yeah, it could happen, because, we really write music because we love it, and we write it because we like to express ourselves, and because we like art, and we're not going to do it at the end of the day to please anybody just because they, wanted to have the element on album 2 on album 6 again,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just not going to happen, because we don't think that way.
Yeah. And I have 2 more questions for you, but when it comes to the live presence of the band, is it almost kind of is there maybe a similar creative energy into playing live as there is to songwriting, or is playing live almost a completely separate art than what songwriting is? I
would say it's separate from each other. It's a very different experience, and you could almost compare it to a mixing engineer sitting in the studio and mixing stuff, or the FOH guy in the concert venue mixing the band live. If you know a little bit about these professions, you will find out that they're basically doing the same, sitting in front of a mixing desk, but these jobs have almost nothing to do with each other, because the context is so different, and what you're doing quite differs from each other very much. So when it comes to live shows, of course it's not the same as, a songwriting process. It's there's a lot of other things going around you, and there's crazy energy in the room, which is not just yourself and the band playing live on stage, but also the people, the crowd, and what's coming back from the people to the stage. And these are processes you don't have that when you write songs, because writing songs, you're being creative, you're sort of trying to find out what's concerning you in the inside of you, and trying to make that available to the outside world in form of guitar licks or vocal melodies, and trying to express yourself. But a live show is always a performance as well.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's almost choreography that you have to rehearse or something like that, right?
Yeah, or that just comes up by itself, but something like that happens, and exactly, that doesn't happen, like in a songwriting session, but which would be funny though.
You never know.
You never know.
That's what the beauty of a live album is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is coming from, are all of you guys, the band originated in Berlin as well, right? Or is that just currently?
No, it's only me in Berlin at the moment. The other two guys are in Hanover, which is our hometown, and that's where the band formed. Yeah.
Okay. So was there kind of like a scene in Hanover where you guys originated from that you guys, sort of cut your teeth in? Or was the goal for the band to just kind of like go outside your hometown a little bit more and to get the name out there?
Well, the goal was always sort of leaving the hometown, and trying to explore other areas in Germany and maybe trying to go abroad one day. Of course, you always, as a band, start playing in your own town, and then if there's a scene, then you sort of, try to get into it or be part of it. I would say there was at a time in Hanover around 2008, 2009, sort of like a small kind of alternative, post-rocky, experimental, post-hardcore metal thing going on in the underground, Like there were at least 10 bands that were playing, frequently at that time in these different locations, and we were also part of that, sort of, or we got into it, but it wasn't just, it wasn't one-sided. It wasn't just a metal scene, or just post-rock, or just hardcore bands. It was sort of also stoner bands, mixed together, but it was like kind of this alternative rock music world going on there, but it sort of dissolved a few years later. I got the feeling, because we had times where people would come to shows and where you would find out about a show every week, and I don't know if it's the fact that I've gotten older and just don't hear about these things anymore, but I sort of have a little bit the impression that that kind of thing isn't there anymore nowadays. Like somehow died then a few years later, and bands dissolved, and then things changed, and to be honest, like there's no big music scene in Hanover anyway, so that what we're talking about is really just basically underground bands. And
yeah, and I'd imagine you living in Berlin at the moment, I heard there's a huge scene out there.
Yeah, in Berlin there's a huge scene for everything, because the German music world sort of concentrates here, and also internationally successful bands like The Ocean are based here too. So yeah, you have metal clubs here as well that that just specialized on rock music, and then you got places for the techno kids and everything. So like basically the musical diversity in this town is huge, but of course the town itself is huge as well, and then the possibilities are endless, and competition is of course hard as well.
Yeah, of course. They've always said big town equals a big scene for anything,
and that's pretty much true. Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed this discussion. Is there just anything else? Is there just anything else you would like to promote for the Hirsch Effekt in terms of the new albums coming out May 8th? Is there just anything like in terms of live shows? Obviously, thanks to a virus that shall not be named, I don't want to give the virus any promotion.
Good one.
Is there any live performances we can be expecting when this is, all over?
Yeah, well, at this moment in time, of course we hope. We hope to someday go on tour with the album, and if it's not this May as it was supposed to be, then it will be this year's November, at least in Germany and around the German countries, the countries around Germany. And next year we have a tour planned. That will also be only Europe. And of course, someday would be absolutely great to tour the US. But until now, we have no plans yet. So, and of course, we have to all wait how the situation sort of continues, and then just go day by day, week by week, and try to make the best out of it. And as soon as touring is allowed, believe us, we will try to try it as much as we can.
Awesome. We're waiting for you in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much, everybody. The Hirsch Effect. Be sure to pick up Kollaps out May 8th on Long Branch Records. Be sure to pick that up then, and we'll see you next time on Heavy New York.